Alright, I'm doing a mic check. Let's see if everything's working. Alright, I'm doing a mic check. Alright, looks like it is. Just gonna go to some things. Alright, so there's a couple things I'm going to discuss. So NVCAP code now has a gilded. I kind of want to make this so that we could eventually, like in the future, engage when there are kind of more people involved. They'll just go to this gilded. I'm just making it now. And we got a Instagram. It's right here. And we're going to talk about Github. So, as I did say, I'm also learning to code, and something I'm gonna admit is Github is going to be something that's gonna be more along the lines of, kind of me learning with, as kind of me learning as I teach. It's gonna be kind of GitHub. I generally know what it is. I know what it's for. But there could be something I could stumble upon, but we're just gonna dive into it. But I've made that very clear that I'm learning as I teach. And then we're going to get into more coding. So what we have done so far was, at least on web development, is basically it kind of started with basic HTML. Well, actually, I'll kind of going kind of more back. So it kind of always starts with HTML with web development. But back then it was actually just this. That's why they call it the legacy version. But I just decided to go through both of them just because I think repetition is key. And it's just like if we go through the old one and this is a new one. These are the same things, but they just one's the old one and one's a new one. That it would just kind of emphasize more of the same concepts. And we've made some progress through this. So this is the old one. We went through basic HTML. We went through that. Basic CSS. And we got up to about here. With the new one, we finished kind of its version of the basic CSS, the basic HTML. And we have yet to go to the CSS yet. So we're about to get into CSS. We actually have got into CSS on the legacy version, and we're just going to continue on that. So that's kind of where we've gone so far. We've also done some programming with Java. And it started with, things like, I'll just go to the original I'll just go to the original video. Just one moment. But this is actually where we originally started, where I just kind of wanted to start with the most basic programming concepts as a foundation. So it went from, what is a computer, variables, to then different kind of programming languages. And then we did coding with Java. So basically, moving forward, what we're going to do is just continue on with CSS, and then eventually we're going to get into Android development. But I kind of want to get a little further along in Java programming before we do that. So we're going to get a little further into Java programming. We're going to get back into it. But for now, we're focusing on CSS. So we're going to basically focus on CSS, then get further in programming, and then use that as kind of like a good foundation to then start up Android development. And that's how to create basically Android apps, phone apps. So, actually need to log in. Github, it signed me out, so I'm just signing in Github right now. Just one moment. Alright, I'm logged in. So, this is GitHub. I think I just posted something. I thought I put something together just to test it out. It said test. I'm not sure if I think it's right here. So this is test.htm. It's crazy easy to. Statement says crazy easy to sign up for Gilded. Yeah. Maybe a couple people have signed up. I think I've been hearing some kind of notification. Oh yeah, Amy and did join us. So basically, this is kind of how it works. This is a very like basic code. This is just literally just to test how it works. But essentially, the purpose of all this at GitHub, I did explain it in a previous tutorial. But essentially, it's like in programming. Imagine, a group is working on, like, let's say we have 3 people that are working on the same essay, like a group project. And as they progress, they're gonna have different versions of the essay. Like maybe one's gonna start it, then one's gonna build off of it. But it doesn't work perfectly like that. Person 1 starts it, and then person 2 picks up on what person 1 did, and then person 3 picks up on what person 2 did after person 1, and kind of a continuous flow. What could accidentally happen is different versions kind of get mixed up with each other, And that's actually the purpose of having this kind of system where basically you can. It's called, what it is called a version control system. It's in the name. So a version control system kind of implies that you basically have access to all the kinds of versions. You can see what kind of modifications are made, and that's it's literally what it is. It's like versions can get messed up if there's more than one person, even one person, and it's just to control the versions. It's a version control system code. Dead Thread Redemptions is essentially it's like a group project, Confucius 2022. Yep. So yeah, if you do want to make a Gilded, I think actually I'm gonna show how to do that. That's actually what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show how to do that. Just one moment. I think I'm gonna just make some kind of other account. I think I have to log out to do that. But I want to show kind of how you would do that. So actually what I want to do is I want to do it this way. This is what I want to do. I'm just going to create a fake email called NVCAP code fake. I'm going to create a fake email, and then we're going to create a Gilded with that fake email and never use it again. So this is just for demonstration purposes. So I'm creating the fake email on my phone. One moment. I'm going to call it NVCAP code fake. Yep, NVCAP code fake at gmail.com. NVCAP fake. Alright, so we have a double X just joined the server. So I just created it. Alright, so now ready to make it visible. So this is a Gilded. So if you don't have a Gilded, we're gonna make one. I'm gonna use NVCAP code fake. At gmail.com. Let's get started. So just a username and a password. Oh. NVCAP code fake. So we're just creating a Gilded for just demonstration purposes, just to show how to create one. Like to receive products, user an update. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We'll just say we do, or we'll say we don't. So, and then I guess it verifies if you're human or not. So let's start this puzzle. Pick one square that shows two identical objects. That would be this. Alright, so we've proven we're human. Alright, one moment. Yeah, I don't know why it looped me back into the same one. It looped me back to the login after I logged in. Okay, so then it sends an email to the email. I just have to log into that. Just log in. Saying it can't find my account. Yeah, so I guess it's a you guys have probably done email verification before. They send a code to your email, you type it in. But now we have a working GitHub where you can basically make any kind of code. So we have some terms here. We have a repository. We have code space. Links provided a gist and a new project. I'm gonna have just the definitions do the talking. So a repository is defined as it contains all of the project's files and each file's revision history. Actually, one moment. I just want to show the definitions. Just one moment. Alright, now I got it loaded up. So, a repository contains all of your project's files and each file's revision history. You can discuss and manage your project's work within the repository. So I think this is so I think it's just something that contains all the files. So if you make I think if you make a project, that's when a repository makes sense. So let's actually make a test project. Alright, one moment. I actually need to log into something. Alright, so we're gonna go through the, I just logged back into the original, I logged into the original NVCAP code Github. So basically, it's almost kind of like a website for your project. So I made this really simple, but essentially, this is a repository. So it's like, imagine, you have you're looking through your files, and, it's showing all your desktop files, and then there's folders and files in those folders. That's kind of almost like, think of that's like a repository of your desktop. Or if you're going through My Documents, that's kind of a repository of your documents. So essentially, it's almost kind of like a file browser of all of the files in your project. Now, when it says a gist, what's a gist? So Every gist is a Git repository, which means that it can be forked and cloned. If you are signed into a GitHub when you create a gist, the gist will be associated with your account, and you'll see it in your list of gists when you navigate to your gist homepage. Just can be public or secret. So I think this is oh, that's not just so essentially what it is when it says forked, when we're talking about different versions, it's like giving who's working on the project access to it. And it's kind of like there's a saying like there's a fork in the road, and then you can go, left or right. But that's kind of how it works with versions if you have like multiple people working on it. Because like the essay example, it would be like them having access to all the files at once. So a repository is all those files, but then it's like you copy all those files for the next person to work on. And then that's a whole nother version of all those files. So it's like thinking of imagine, in that scenario, student one, right, has a flash drive, and then they save everything, right, and then they put it on a flash drive, and then they give that flash drive to student two. It's like in a way that flash drive that student two would then work on would actually be a gist, because it's their own version of the files. So it's their own repository that they can work on and that they can then add into it. Although, obviously working on it that way, it would have that version issue and there would be no way to find out. It would be able to. It's kind of the reason to have GitHub is that you would want basically all the versions and all the versions of the repositories to be known, documented on a cloud, so then you can easily see where all the versions were edited by. And I think that's all I'm gonna cover for GitHub for now. We're gonna get more into it, but I think it's available. I'm pretty sure it's available. But if you do want to kind of try it on your own, to create your own GitHub and try to see if you can download test, which is kind of the first version, kind of like a just like a very small file that I just put on there to see if it works. See if you have access to that file. See if you can download that file, and maybe try to start using GitHub and playing around with it. But that's kind of all I'll get into now. But then we're gonna get more into it in the future. So I think now we're gonna get more into familiar ground. We're just gonna do more CSS. So we're doing basic CSS. Add rounded corners with border radius. Let me see if everything's working. Yeah. Add rounded corners with border radius. Your cat photo currently has sharp corners. We can round out those corners with the CSS property called border radius. You can specify a border radius with pixels. Give your cat a photo border radius of 10 pixels. Note, this challenge allows for multiple possible solutions. For example, you may add border radius to either the thick green border class or the smaller image class. Okay. Okay, so basically, this image right here, has a class that's attributed to it. So this is a class, and this is a class. From what I see right here, I mean, this is how you import a class, remember? Just class equals, and then you don't have the dot. And then you kind of think if you have multiple classes, you would separate them by a comma. But actually, it's not. It's just one space. So something you can't see, but because it's on the second line, is it's one. There's a space in between these two. But it's importing both classes, so I could add this. What it's saying is I could add this CSS property to either one because it doesn't matter. So I'm going to add it to this one. So border radius. What does border radius do? It gives it a sharp corner. It rounds out the border from a sharp corner. So wants to make the border radius 10 pixels. So we'll do that. And now if you notice, it's round. Right here, this is round. This kind of has more of a round border, where otherwise it was sharp and jagged. So now it's kind of like a square, but then when I actually apply it, it's round. So that's the effect border radius does. So I believe I did it the way I was supposed to do it. So let's test it out. Yep, so the code worked. Make circular images with a border radius. In addition to pixels, you can also specify the border radius using a percentage. Give your cat photo a border radius of 50%. Okay, so I think it's just saying to change this to 50%. So if you notice, the image changed quite a bit from that. And that should be what it wanted us to do. So it did check out. But let's see what happens if we kind of mess around with it. What happens if it's 20%? What happens if it's 10%? So that's 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. 60%. And then it kind of stops. So basically what it does is, as it kind of gets up to about 50%, it kind of makes this thing a circle border. And I think the reason why it stops at 50% is it might be the reason because there's two radii in a diameter. I think that's why. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the reason. But basically, all you really need to know from this point is it basically just makes it more into a circle. So if you want to make the border around your image more and more of a circle, then that's how you do it. So let me test the code. It works out. Give a background to a div element. You can set an element's background color with the background color property. For example, if you wanted an element's background color to be green, you'd put this with your style element. So this is a green background class, and they're making the background color green. So now it wants me to create a class, right, called silver background with the background color to be silver. Assign this class to your div element. So let's just let's be sure we're referring to the right div element. There's only one div element. It's right here. Actually, let's make the class first, but this is going to be the div element we're going to work with. So how do we start a class? With a dot. And it's going to be silver background. And what are we going to put in this code that's going to be assigned to whatever is going to be inheriting the class? The background color is going to be silver. And this is going to be the name of the class. So let's just now assign that class. And now, if you notice, there's a silver background. It kind of looks like it's highlighted. Now I'm pretty sure that code's going to check out, and it did. So now let's kind of play around with it a little more, just so we can understand. So now we've already done what we were supposed to do. But let's change the code a little bit. What happens if we do make it green? What does green look like? Green. Let's make it blue. Let's make it red. Let's make it yellow. So it literally just makes a color, the background of it to have a certain color. But let's just go back to silver. Now we're 30% almost done. So now, Now the next one, set the ID of an element. In addition to classes, each HTML element can also have an ID attribute. There are several benefits to using ID attributes. You can use an ID to style a single element, and later you'll learn that you can use them to select and modify specific elements with JavaScript. ID attributes should be unique. Browsers won't enforce this, but it's widely agreed upon best practice. Also, actually, I'll leave that for a later topic. So please don't give more than one element the same ID attribute. Here's an example of how you give your H2 element the ID of cat photo app. So it's kind of like just naming. It's naming an element. So we have that's a header. So it's a way to name it. So give your form element the ID cat photo form. So we have the name right here. Where's the form? So ID equals, and that's it. Using an ID attribute to style an element. One cool thing about ID attributes is that, like classes, you can style them using CSS. However, an ID is not reusable and should only be applied to one element. An ID is also a higher I'll just I don't know, it's a hard word to say. Specificity? I don't know. It's a lot harder of a word to say than I thought. But that means importance. At a class. So if both are applied to the same element and have conflicting styles, the styles of the ID will be applied. Here's an example of how you can take your element with the ID attribute of cat photo element and give it the background color of green and your style element. Well, I just want to make sure there's an issue with my mic. Okay. So here's an example of how you can take an element with the ID attribute of cat photo element and give it to the background color of green and your style element. Alright, so we've done background colors. Note that inside your style element, you can always reference classes by putting a dot in front of their names. You always reference IDs by putting a hash symbol in front of their names. Try giving your form, which now has the ID attribute of cat photo form, a green background. So this form has this ID, right? So let's copy this ID and let's talk about it. So here, this is the code for the classes. So now we're going to make one for an ID. It's a very similar concept to a class. So now, any code within the ID of this element, and there's really just, it's kind of different from a class, because a class can be applied to multiple elements, but it's really supposed to be, an ID is supposed to be, it's really supposed to be an individual element. There's only supposed to be one element per ID. That's kind of the difference. But what kind of code are we going to put in there? So background, color, and I think it's supposed to be green, and that's it. So now we've done this through the ID. So I think that's it. Yep. And we could change that color to gray. We could change that color to silver. Change it to blue. But it's supposed to be green. So now we're going to continue on. Adjusting the padding of an element. Now let's put our cat photo up away. So we're not working on that. If you notice, this is different. For a little while to learn more about styling HTML. You may have already noticed this, but all HTML elements are essentially little rectangles. 3 important properties control the space that surrounds each HTML element: padding, border, and margin. Element's padding controls the amount of space between the element's content and its border. So with this situation, it has it's kind of like there's some space between the padding and the margin. Here we can see that the blue box and the red box are nested within the yellow box. Note that the red box has more padding than the blue box. When you increase the blue box's padding, you'll increase the distance between the text and the border around it. So I think the only way of testing this is changing the padding. So change the padding of the blue box to 20 px. So essentially it creates, so that blue goes up. So if we make it, let's say 70%, it's a lot more space. Or 200 pixels, that's a lot more space, it's a lot more padding. Just the margin of an element. This is its margin. An element's margin controls the amount of space between an element's border and surrounding elements. Here we can see that blue box and red box are nested within the yellow box. Note that the red box has a bigger margin than the blue box, making it appear smaller. When you increase the blue box's margin, it'll increase the distance between its border and surrounding elements. So change the margin of the blue box to match one of the red box. So the margin is 20 up here, so if we make it 20, then it's the same. So before it was 10. So essentially, the bigger it goes, the more there's space between the element and the margin, making it smaller. Add a negative margin to an element. Add an element's margin controls the amount of space between an element's border and surrounding elements. If you set an element's margin to a negative value, the element will grow larger. Try to set the margin to a negative value, like the one for the red box. Change the margin of the blue box to negative 15 px, so it fills the entire horizontal width of the yellow box around it. So, I mean, that's what it told us to do. Checked out. Let's mess around with it. So essentially, if it's the same as the other one, so I think if these were the same, if it's 25, 25, it's different. We can make it 50. So what is it about 15 that makes it just right? Oh, Mr. X just said, what's it, GitHub? So Github is version control system that we use to manage all the versions that are in the that a group may work on. So essentially, it just makes it so that all the versions are organized on a cloud that a group of people can work on. There's the next one. Add different padding to each side of an element. Sometimes you want to customize an element so that it has different amounts of padding on each of its sides. Yeah, actually, sorry, this is a lot of noise in the building. So I think I have to actually end it early. I think I'm going to do another one that's going to be very late. But I'm just going to keep making these, and we're just going to keep making progress.